Saito Hojo is a spineless loser who can't survive a school day without getting verbally bodied by Akane Sakuramori, the class queen of insults. So of course, fate slaps him with a marriage contract to her. Now he's stuck living with the one girl who'd rather stab him than say, good morning. It's hate at first sight, then marriage, then chaos. Romance? Maybe. Regret? Definitely. Saito and Akane are sworn enemies. Everyone in school knows it. Their daily routine is yelling, arguing, and making everyone else uncomfortable. It's gotten to the point where the class just tunes them out, but Hamari, their curious classmate, finds it fascinating. She starts wondering if the hate is hiding something deeper, maybe some weird version of love. Akane shuts that down immediately, saying she'd rather let a cockroach crawl into her ear than have feelings for Saito. The cockroach was rooting for them all along. After school, Saito gets a call from his super-rich grandpa, Tenryo. He's invited for tea. Saito, knowing how unpredictable the old man is, tries to avoid it, but a limo rolls up outside with two men in suits who don't take no for an answer. He's practically kidnapped, but in a rich people way. He's taken to a huge mansion. There, to his surprise, he finds Akane already waiting. She was also invited by her grandma Chiyo. The atmosphere is tense. The two waste no time throwing verbal punches at each other. Then the old folks appear and invite them to dinner, but halfway through the meal, Tenryo and Chiyo drop a bomb. Saito and Akane are getting married.
What?
Both teens freeze, choking on food and disbelief. They refuse immediately. Obviously, Akane says she'd rather die, and Sayuto nearly walks out, but then Tenryo, casually sipping tea, threatens to disown Sayuto from the family fortune if he refuses. He even says the family dog's life is on the line. Marry the girl or I take the dog out back. Disney villains just took notes. Akane laughs it off, saying she's not scared of threats, but then Chiyo leans in and whispers something to her. Akane goes completely pale and quiet. Whatever was said, it shut her up fast. They're given 3 days to accept the engagement. That night, Akane lies in bed thinking. She can't stop fuming over Saito. She hates how he's always one step ahead of her without even trying. She calls Himari, trying to vent without revealing the truth. She frames it like a what-if situation. Himari gives her honest answers. She says she'd never marry someone she didn't like. Akane scoffs at the word like. When asked if there's anyone she likes, Akane says she mostly feels hatred, mainly directed at one person. Himari tells her that being married could have some benefits: money, housing, security, Hobi day. Maybe it wouldn't be that bad. But Akane's face turns red when the topic of babies comes up. She says she's not ready for that responsibility or the process. Meanwhile, Saito is also having a rough night. His cousin, Shisei, comforts him and assures him that even if he gets kicked out of the family, she'll support him. She believes he's capable of surviving even without the money or name, but Saito is mostly worried about being trapped with Akane. He finds the idea unbearable. 3 days later, both finally agree to the marriage, but Saito has one condition. They wait until graduation. The grandparents immediately shoot that down. The house is ready. The move is happening now. They're being dropped off at their new shared home today. The house is big and furnished. It looks like something out of a luxury catalog. Everything seems okay until they realize there's only one bed. One house, one kitchen, one toilet, one bed. Somewhere, a reality show producer is screaming, "This is gold!" They call the grandparents to complain. Hayo calmly says it's intentional. It'll build intimacy. And Ryo agrees while casually sipping wine. Then Chiyo adds something horrifying. She wishes Akane good luck with the pounding.
What do you mean by that?
That sentence alone gave Akane 7 new traumas and a sleep disorder. The call ends. Saito and Akane stand in awkward silence. Saito suspects there might be cameras in the house. Knowing how insane his grandpa can be, Akane asks him if he plans to do it. Saito, confused, asks, do what? She accuses him of planning to defile her in her sleep. Saito's only plan was to eat snacks and cry in peace. To defend herself, Akane grabs a huge novelty pencil that could double as a medieval weapon and threatens to crush his skull if he tries anything funny. Later, she tries to carry a large box upstairs alone. Saito offers to help, but she assumes he wants to grab her figurines or mess with her stuff. She shoos him away.
Brother, ugh.
Halfway up, she slips and nearly falls. Saito catches her, accidentally pulling her clothes. For a split second, they don't argue. It's weird. Akane brushes it off quickly and walks off. Saito finishes unpacking and finds food in the kitchen. It's pizza, which Akane apparently made or ordered. He takes a slice. She walks in, doesn't say anything, and just snips the food like a stray cat. He silently offers her some. She takes a slice without a word and walks away. That night, they both lie in the same bed, backs turned. The silence is heavy. Saito asks why she accepted the marriage in the end. Akane dodges the question, saying it's just part of a larger plan. Saito jokes that the next phase of the plan will probably involve babies.
What do you mean by that?
Akane freaks out, starts yelling and flailing like he just activated her fight or flight. This isn't romance. This is emotional dodgeball. She reminds him that no one can know about the marriage, not a single soul at school. Saito agrees not because he's scared, but because he genuinely has no interest in announcing it. Akane's ego is bruised. She assumes he's trying to hide it because he's embarrassed of her. She says, most guys would brag about marrying someone like me. Saito stays silent. Even he knows survival depends on not answering that question. The next morning, they leave for school together. No one knows their secret. Yet, one day, Akane's best friend Himari sees her chatting with Saito and immediately goes into detective mode. She corners Akane like she's been caught smuggling test answers. Akane brushes it off, saying she just told him to stop being so casual with her. Don't worry, Himari. I just told him to speak to me like I'm a bank manager.
What?
Himari's confusion grows. Why is Akane suddenly flustered around the guy she used to glare at like he stole her lunch money? Later that day, Saito is chilling at his desk when his cousin Shisei walks up and sniffs him. Yes, you read that right. She leans in, inhales deeply, and with the precision of a bloodhound, declares that he smells different, like a girl. It's either you're married or you spent the night rolling in a Yankee Candle store. Saito awkwardly lies that his dad just bought a new shampoo. Shisei doesn't buy it. She says plainly, you must be married. She's been spying and even found their house. Before she can drop Akane's name, Saito yanks her away and runs up the stairs like he's fleeing a rom-com horror crossover. Shisei doesn't buy it, okay. After dough. Out of breath and dignity, he begs her not to tell. Shisei, being the cryptic little demon she is, agrees, but only if Saito becomes her servant for life. Shito sighs. What's a forced marriage without a side of blackmail? After a grueling PE class that turns Saito into a puddle, Akane storms over to yell at him for not putting the equipment away. He says he left it out to help the next class. Their shouting match turns heads, but their classmates just keep munching their snacks. At this point, Akane and Saito arguing is part of the school curriculum. Back home, Saito hears a scream. He rushes to the kitchen expecting blood, but finds Akane standing in horror before an overstuffed fridge. It's filled with concentrated vegetable juice. Saito proudly explains it's healthy. Akane's eyebrow twitches. Then he opens the second fridge, this one packed top to bottom with cup noodles. Congrats, Akane, you married a human vending machine. She demands to know how he plans to get protein. He dramatically pulls out a protein shake, explaining how it balances whey and casein. She backs away like he's holding a potion of doom. He pushes it toward her with confidence. She takes one sniff and nearly dry heaves. This shake smells like gym socks had a baby with chalk dust. Akane's concern grows. If Saito eats like this, he might actually die. And if he dies, their secret marriage dies with him. She grabs her apron and swears to teach him the ancient art of real food. Akane glides around the kitchen like a pro, while Saito watches, impressed yet wary, as if she might poison him out of habit. When she presents the meal, he pokes it suspiciously, then takes a bite. A nostalgic look sweeps his face. He murmurs it's just a home-cooked meal, and Akane's heart shatters like cheap glass. She yanks the plate back, declaring she'll feed it to stray dogs. They wrestle over the food. Saito wins and finishes it all. The next morning, Akane walks into Saito's room to wake him. Still dreaming, he grabs her and pulls her into bed, thinking she's someone else.
Yeah, boy.
Akane screams. Saito jerks away, panic written all over his face. She fumes, not because of the hug, but because he didn't wash the dishes from last night. He shrugs and says he'll do it later when they pile up. I clean once a month. It builds character and fungus. Akane considers calling pest control on her own husband. That night, Saito plays a zombie game like his life depends on it. Akane storms in, horrified by the gore. They fight over the controller. In the struggle, the console shuts off, and Saito realizes he never saved. 12 hours of gameplay lost. Saito's soul ascended, leaving behind only protein powder. Later, needing a bath, he walks in, only to find Akane naked and asleep in the tub. At first, he's too stunned to function, but then fear sets in. What if she's drowning? He rushes in and tries to lift her, but slips. She falls onto him and then wakes up. Her first words, "W.A. are you naked with me?" Saito can't even form a sentence. Akane, mortified and furious, screams at him to get out. Later, in bed, she cries silently. Maybe, just maybe, he was trying to help. At school, Himari notices Akane seems down. She listens as Akane vaguely explains her roommate drama, without naming Saito. Himari, sweet and innocent, suggests giving the guy a hug. Akane looks at her like she grew a second head. So Himari tries actual advice. If you want respect, you've got to give it too. Meanwhile, Saito vents to Shisei, who casually suggests divorce. He refuses. He made a promise to Grandpa to make it work. Shisei rolls her eyes and says if he's serious, he better start listening. Determined to change, Saito returns home. But Akane's standing in the hallway, arms folded and eyes sharp enough to cut steel. Before he can flee, she calmly says, "Can we talk?" He sits down, mentally preparing for divorce. Instead, Akane suggests setting house rules so they can survive under one roof without murder. They agree Saito will wash dishes more often. He can't live like a trash goblin. If he accidentally touches her in bed due to the small space, it's okay, but strictly PG.
What do you mean by that?
Touch me in my sleep and I'll end your whole bloodline. Saito suggests they thank each other more. Akane agrees, adding he must never call her food normal again. Normal is banned. Later, she talks to Himari on the phone and admits things are slowly getting better. When Saito walks in, she nervously says he can touch her if he wants. Platonically, he declines. Bluntly, Akane, you can touch me. Saito, nah, I'm good. I've got protein powder. Over time, small things begin to change. Saito surprises Akane with a thoughtful gift. She prepares an extravagant dinner in return. This time, Saito compliments her food with his whole chest. Akane blushes so hard, the air temperature spikes. After dinner, Saito washes dishes unprompted. Akane quietly joins him. They clean in silence, the air between them warm and unfamiliar. He sneaks a glance. She looks different, softer, kinder. Plot twist, turns out she's cute when she's not screaming at your rice choices. As they stand side by side, hands brushing over soap suds in silence, something shifts. Saito realizes this girl, this enemy turned roommate turned partner, isn't so bad. In fact, she might be beautiful. One night, Saito relaxes in bed with his favorite book when Akane walks in and interrupts him. She tells him she found a movie that caught her attention and rented it. Thinking she wants the bed to herself, Saito starts to get up, but Akane stops him. He looks at her, confused. With a shy expression, she holds up the movie tape. 24 uncut hours of kitten footage. She quietly says she wants them to watch it together. Nothing screams romance like 24 hours of furballs doing taxes in their litter box. Sayo stares at the cover, baffled. He can't understand why anyone would want to watch kittens for an entire day. Luckily, Akane discovers a shorter version that lasts only 3 hours. Sayo immediately agrees to watch that one instead. They start the movie. Akane is glued to the screen, smiling the whole time. Meanwhile, Saito falls asleep halfway through, completely uninterested. His soul left his body halfway through Kitten 37 batting a yarn ball. When it ends, Akane stretches happily and says she loved every minute of it. She even suggests watching the full 24-hour version next time. Saito wakes up groggy and mumbles something about an alien planet, still feeling guilty for sleeping through her pick. He agrees when Akane says it's his turn to choose the next activity, but instead of a movie, he admits he prefers video games. Akane frowns, saying she doesn't know how to play. Saito grins, lifts his controller, and promises to teach her. Akane looks doubtful and insists she won't enjoy it, but just 30 minutes later, she's celebrating her first boss win, cheering loudly. Saito sits beside her, quietly smiling, amazed that he's actually enjoying himself with the one person he always considered a rival. Later that night, they lie side by side in bed. Saito wakes up and notices that Akane's blanket has slipped off. He gently pulls it over her. To his surprise, she opens her eyes and softly thanks him for the fun they had that day. Green leg loading. Lying in bed facing away from each other, Saito tells Akane she can choose their next game, while he'll pick the next movie. She then tells him to stop avoiding her name and says she prefers it when he just calls her Akane. The following day at school, Akane helps him pick up an eraser he drops. As he lifts his head from the desk, he thanks her. She blushes slightly in return. The eraser was innocent, but it just witnessed the beginning of a rom-com. R.I.P. A moment later, Himari approaches and asks if Akane and Saito had another argument. Not wanting anyone to suspect they're getting along, Akane claims they're always fighting, but Himari doesn't buy it. Their behavior doesn't match the usual tension she's used to seeing. Feeling pressured, Akane quickly leaves the classroom and skips the first period. Later in the day, Saito searches for a book in the library. Shisei sneaks up behind him and covers his eyes, teasing him to guess who it is. Knowing her style, he immediately guesses right. She laughs and pulls her hands away. Either he's psychic or she wears the same strawberry-scented lotion daily. Shisei notices he's holding a book about communication skills. Even though she knows he's terrible at it, she still asks what he's using it for. Saito explains he's trying to improve his relationship with Akane. He adds that, so far, the book suggests teamwork helps build a stronger connection. During break, Saito calls out to Akane in the hallway. She turns with a displeased look and says she'd rather not talk much at school. He asks if she's busy later. When she says she's free, he invites her to go shopping with him after school. Akane suspects it could be a date, but before she reacts, Saito quickly pulls her into an empty room to avoid anyone overhearing. Akane scolds Saito for pulling her into a dark room, accusing him of trying something inappropriate.
Yeah, boy.
Saito, not wanting any misunderstandings, quickly explains he only did it to stop her from saying the word date out loud. She blushes a little and points out that it basically is a date. Guys and girls don't usually hang out like that for no reason. Saito insists it isn't a date and says he just needs help carrying groceries. Akane finds his excuse funny and decides to play along. They both end up laughing like a couple of goofballs. Yes, the classic, it's not a date, it's a grocery-based bonding exercise. After school, Akane jumps when Himari greets her with excitement. Himari's work shift got cancelled and she wants to hang out. Akane, already having plans with Saito, struggles to respond. Himari starts listing fun things they could do, but Akane, tearing up a little, admits she's already meeting someone. Himari doesn't take it personally and curiously asks if it's a new friend. When Akane says it's someone she knows, Himari immediately guesses it's Saito and playfully asks if it's a date. Embarrassed, Akane dashes off without answering. While running, Akane suddenly trips over Shisei, who's lying flat on the ground. Alarmed, Akane helps her up and apologizes, asking why she was just lying there. Shisei casually says she was waiting for her, but since Akane stepped on her, Shisei hands her a legendary sword as compensation. Uninterested, Akane slowly walks away, saying she doesn't care about stuff like that. Before Akane leaves, Shisei asks if she plans to build teamwork with Saito. She steps in front of her and refuses to move until she gets an answer. Oh no! Not wanting to deal with the question, Akane quickly apologizes and runs in the opposite direction. Later that day, Akane and Saito walk side by side through the park, both slightly blushing as they near the supermarket. Inside, Saito notices they're out of eggs and reaches for a pack. Akane stops him and tells him to check the price before tossing things into the cart. Soon after, Akane spots a limited time sale and sees a crowd swarming the area. She tries to push her way in but gets shoved aside. Saito jumps in to help but gets thrown back even faster, lying on the floor. Both start laughing at how terrible they are at grabbing discounts. Akane stands up and confidently says she's not giving up. Saito gets up too but admits he's ready to quit. She looks him in the eye and tries to motivate him, insisting he come with her. He blushes and agrees. They walk home together afterward. That night, Akane wakes up to see Saito holding a finger in front of her face.
What?
He's about to poke her cheek. She sits up and scolds him, accusing him of trying to do something disturbing. Saito denies it and confesses he's a simp. He just thought she looked too cute while sleeping. Akane blushes, hugs her pillow, and lies back down. She tells him he can watch her sleep for a bit, though she admits it's still creepy. Nothing screams love like I allow you to stalk me as a treat. The next morning, Saito and Akane wake up and greet each other with shy blushes. Later that afternoon, while walking to school, they pass a stall selling strawberry cream buns. Akane wants one, so Saito buys it for her. When he brings it back, the pastry turns out to be too big for her to finish alone. He suggests they split it. As they share the bun, Amari walks by and sees them together. Surprised, she stares. She's never seen them hang out outside school. Sensing suspicion, Akane quickly claims that Saito was just following her around. That night, Akane stays up late studying for an upcoming test. Saito doesn't join her. He says there's no need to study since he remembers everything from class and even got a perfect score on the last test. Akane sees this as bragging and throws her pillow at him, telling him to leave. A few minutes later, Saito knocks on her door and hands her a snack. She opens it to find a strawberry cake and is surprised he went through the trouble. She takes it inside, thinking about his unexpected kindness. One bite is all it takes to lift her spirits. The cake is delicious. Encouraged by the taste, she eats it gladly, knowing it will help her stay awake and focused. Saito prepares a few more simple dishes, and she eats everything with a smile. The next morning at school, Akane collapses in the hallway. Amari sees her fall and rushes over to help. She asks if Akane is okay. Akane nods and says she's just tired from studying all night. Himari tells her not to overdo it and reminds her that health comes first. But Akane stays focused on her goal, getting the highest grade in the class. Himari tries to reason with her again, saying she'll never beat Saito's score. Still, Akane refuses to back down. She's determined to outdo him. That's not academic rivalry, that's anime blood feud 1001. That evening, Saito brings her a late-night snack but finds her slumped over her desk. At first, he thinks she's asleep. As he steps closer, he notices her face twisted in discomfort. Concerned, he checks her temperature and sees it's dangerously high, 4 degrees C. She's clearly sick. When Akane whispers that she feels hot and unwell, Saito grabs a wet rag and gently wipes away her sweat. While he cares for her, Akane weakly mutters about how much she needs to study. She says her dream is to become a doctor, someone who helps others live long and healthy lives. Her voice softens as she admits her parents can't afford medical school. The only reason she agreed to marry Saito was because her grandmother promised to pay for her education if she married him. Hearing her words, Saito feels both surprised and impressed. He never knew how much becoming a doctor meant to her. Akane, still weak and frustrated, starts venting. She talks about how hard she studies every day, yet she can never beat him, even though he barely tries and still scores perfectly. Then, without meaning to, she admits she's always admired him, even if she never said it before. That's not a fever. That's an accidental love confession virus. Realizing what she just confessed, her face turns bright red. She yells at him to forget everything she said. A few minutes later, Saito checks her temperature. Oh, again, it has risen to 42 degrees Celsius. Worried, he decides to call an ambulance. Akane tells him not to and insists he go to bed. He tries calling anyway, but the call doesn't go through. Left with no other choice, he gently lifts her into his arms and tells her he's not going to let her suffer alone. As he carries her outside, Akane looks up at him, surprised he can lift her so easily. She teases him, saying he's stronger than he looks. Saito doesn't say much, but he knows he'll remember that comment forever. As Saito runs with Akane in his arms, he brings up the dream she mentioned earlier. He tells her he believes in her. He says she's the kind of person who never gives up, no matter how hard things get, and that's why she'll become a great doctor. While rushing toward the hospital, Saito thinks about their strange marriage. He remembers how much he disliked her at first, but now he wonders if this marriage might turn out to be something special after all. The next morning, Akane wakes him up with a smirk and a fake threat. She laughs and tells him he should be thankful she got him up in time for school. Saito groans, realizing she's already back to her usual self. Luckily, it was just a bad cold. A week later, school life returns to normal. Saito's day begins with Himari walking up to him and congratulating him on his perfect test score. She flirts a little, but he doesn't catch on. Moments later, Akane approaches with a serious look. Saito tenses up, expecting her to yell at him. Instead, she blushes and calmly reminds him that he has a wife, so he shouldn't get too friendly with other girls. As she walks away, Saito watches her with a smile. In that quiet moment, he thinks to himself, maybe I really do have the cutest wife in the world. Congrats, Saito. You've unlocked the rare Tsundere Soft Edition DLC. The following day, before class could start, Akane hands Saito a neatly prepared lunch. She looks annoyed. He forgot it at home. Again, she assumes he doesn't like her cooking. Saito immediately denies it. He tells her he actually loves her food. It's the one thing in this weird relationship that brings him peace. The forgetting? Just an honest mistake. Either he's telling the truth or he's mastered the ancient husband technique. Apologize, compliment the food, change the subject. Lunchtime hits. Saito opens the bento, barely lifting his chopsticks, when Shisei, his little sister, storms in like she smelled soy sauce from another planet. She announces she's starving. Again, he reminds her she already ate 3 bowls of rice earlier. She shrugs. Doesn't count. She demands his entire lunch. Classmates nearby immediately jump in, not to help Saito of course, but to hype up Shisei's cuteness. In seconds, public opinion has decided, give her the food. Saito gives up and lets her sit on his lap to eat, figuring resistance is useless. And just like that, his carefully made lunch is no longer his. Then Himari walks by. She takes one glance at Saito's bento, well, what's left of it, and notices something suspicious. It's identical to Akane's lunch. Placement, ingredients, everything. The only difference is that his has now been devoured by a gremlin in a school uniform.
What? What the fuck?
Himari teases that they're dating. Saito and Akane deny it so quickly and in sync, it looks rehearsed, which ironically makes it even more suspicious. Saito tries to make up a reason for why their lunches match, but before he can finish, he notices Shisei has somehow finished the entire meal without anyone noticing. Again, Shisei eats like someone who's been reincarnated from a vacuum cleaner. With the evidence gone, the class moves on. Shisei leans back, proud of her master plan, which was clearly just eat food and pretend it was strategic. Saito bumps into Himari on the stairs. She's still stuck on the lunch thing. Did Akane make it? She asks. Saito lies, saying they just happened to use the same ingredients. Then she asks the big one, are you dating, bud? He says no. She nods, almost relieved, and walks off without another word. That night, Saito and Akane settle into sleep. Well, Saito does. Akane jolts up screaming. Saito thinks they're under attack. Turns out she saw a ghost, or thinks she did. He checks the room, finds nothing, and goes back to bed. Akane, still shaken, asks him to stay up with her. He agrees, and they start reading books together. Quiet, nice, ghost-free, but the peace doesn't last. A little later, Akane rushes into Saito's study, claiming she heard more ghostly noises from the living room. He asks if she recorded anything. She didn't. She just knows. Saito's skeptical. She's probably overthinking. When he gets up to go to the bathroom, she panics and asks to go with him. He says no, they're married but not bathroom buddy, close. There are still limits. Later, she insists he sit outside the bathroom while she takes a bath. He does, parked outside the door like a security guard with no actual training. The next day, Saito vents to Shisei on the rooftop. Akane is freaking out over ghosts, he says. Shisei, never one to keep her voice down, casually announces that Akane is his wife. Akane storms over and drags them both into an empty classroom. She glares at Saito, furious. You told her! Saito says he didn't. Shisei figured it out herself. Akane doesn't love it, but it makes sense. Shisei's nosy, she knows things. Changing the subject, Shisei says she believes in the ghost. If we don't act fast, she warns, it could ruin Akane's test scores. Akane turns white. Now it's serious. She begs Shisei to help. That night, the trio heads to Saito's house. Shisei walks in like she's filming her own paranormal reality show. She declares the house haunted and insists she must search through all their personal belongings. They start in Saito's study. Shisei teases him about hiding dirty magazines. He denies it. She digs through drawers anyway and finds a pair of his underwear. She went ghost hunting and found a dead pair of boxers instead. After that, Shisei wants to inspect Akane's room. Akane says absolutely not, so they go to the bedroom instead, where Akane swears she saw the ghost. Shisei stares at the bed, nods, and says, that ghost was me. Grandpa gave her a spare key. She'd been sneaking in at night, hoping to catch them doing something married. They never were, so now she wants dinner. Akane refuses until Shisei starts raving about her cooking. After a full minute of compliments, Akane gives in and makes dinner. During the meal, Shisei eats like she's never seen food before. Saito wipes something off her cheek. Akane notices. Her smile fades a little. Later, Saito and Shisei play a game together in the living room. Akane watches them closely. She doesn't say it, but she's clearly annoyed. When Saito announces he's going to take a bath, Shisei jumps up and says she'll join him.
What?
Akane slams the brakes. No, absolutely not. Shisei argues they used to bathe together all the time.
Yeah, boy.
Saito admits that's true, but it stopped when he moved in with Akane. Akane stands firm. It's not happening again. That night, Akane walks into the bedroom. Saito's reading. She asks where Shisei is. Still gaming, he says. Akane breathes a small sigh of relief and sits down next to him. She brings up the cat game they were playing earlier. She wanted to play too, but never got the chance. Saito says he thought she was too busy with schoolwork. Akane says she would have made time. Then she yells at him for being clueless. He's smart enough to dodge suspicion from the class, but dumb enough to miss obvious jealousy. She accuses him of spoiling Shisei. He defends himself. It's a sibling thing. Suddenly, she freezes. So does he. Something touched them inappropriately. From under the blanket, Shisei springs out like a horror movie jump scare. She grins, totally unbothered, and announces that she's sleeping in their bed tonight. Akane nearly passes out. Shisei says it's fine, she's just borrowing her brother for one night. Akane insists she only shares a bed with Saito because their grandparents forced them to. Shisei offers to sleep on the floor, but Akane doesn't want to look jealous, so she agrees to the slumber party. Later that night, the lights are off. Everyone's pretending to sleep. Shisei turns toward Akane and tells her to stop hiding her feelings. You like him, she says. Anyone with eyes can see it. Akane plays dumb. Shisei isn't buying it. She says Saito's too oblivious to notice unless someone spells it out. Then she turns around, says she's glad Saito has someone like Akane, and closes her eyes. Akane stares at the ceiling, thinking about everything, and maybe, just maybe, about saying something honest. The story continues with Himari meeting Akane at a cafe. As soon as they sit down, Himari wastes no time and asks Akane if she has feelings for Saito. The question catches Akane completely off guard. Flustered, she quickly denies having any affection for him. Still, she's curious why Himari would ask something like that out of nowhere. Himari admits that she has a crush on Saito. Akane is confused and asks what she even sees in a guy like him. Himari explains that she loves everything about Saito, from his looks to how well prepared he always is. She recalls a specific moment when a girl from their sports team collapsed from heat stroke. While everyone else panicked, Saito stayed calm and took control of the situation. Meanwhile, Akane had run in circles like a headless chicken yelling, "Somebody call Batman!" Hearing that, Akane has to admit Saito is reliable in a crisis, though she tries not to dwell on it. Himari continues, saying she really admires people who can keep their cool when things go wrong. On top of that, Saito is always kind to her. Because of all this, she was hoping Akane could help get Saito to like her in return. Akane agrees to help, but she's not exactly sure how. She asks Himari what she wants her to do. Himari tells Akane that all she really wants is some information about Saito's interests so she can relate to him better. But after thinking it over, Akane realizes she doesn't actually know that much about Saito herself, which was shocking considering she'd accidentally memorized every item in his fridge out of boredom. Later that evening, Saito notices Akane standing right behind him with a pen and notepad in her hand. He finds it a little unsettling and asks what she's doing. Akane simply replies that she's observing him and doesn't offer any further explanation. Saito tries to ignore it, but Akane continues to follow him around. Even during dinner, she holds a camera up close to his face. He asks why she's filming him like that, but since she can't reveal Himari's crush, she just tells him to ignore it. Saito briefly wondered if he'd been cast in a documentary called The Mysterious Life of a Mildly Confused Teen. Saito decides to focus on eating his dinner. While he eats, Akane suddenly asks if he has a preferred type of girl. The question catches him off guard, but he says he doesn't really have one. Akane moves on and asks what his favorite foods are. Saito replies that he likes steak, sushi, and seafood bowls topped with caviar. That last one sounds a little fancy to Akane, so she asks how he likes his steak. Saito says he prefers it rare. The next morning at school, Akane tells Himari about Saito's favorite foods. Himari is excited to learn something new about him. Since she's eager to know even more, Akane adds that Saito enjoys playing video games and reading books before bed. Himari thinks that's cute, but then pauses and wonders how Akane would know what Saito does before going to sleep. Caught off guard, Akane quickly lies and says she overheard him talking about it. Technically true if you count the time she camped outside his room with a glass to the wall. Later that night, Akane starts getting ready to make dinner, and Saito asks what she's planning to cook. She tells him she's making fish. Saito looks disappointed and says he was hoping for steak, especially since she asked him about it the day before. Akane hadn't planned on making steak at all, but after seeing how excited he was, she agrees to do it. However, they'll need to go out and buy the ingredients first. On their way back from the grocery store, Akane tells Saito that doing things like this makes her happy. It reminds her when she used to go shopping with her mother as a child. Saito listens, but he admits he doesn't really share that kind of memory. Once they get home, Akane prepares the steak exactly how Saito likes it. When he takes his first bite, he pauses and stares at the plate in silence. Akane immediately assumes he hates it, but to her surprise, Saito tells her it tastes so good that he wishes he could eat it every day. Akane's heart skipped a beat, either from joy or because she accidentally swallowed a peppercorn whole. Akane can't can't believe Saito is praising her cooking so much, but hearing it makes her happy. She tells him that if he enjoys her food that much, she'll make as many amazing meals for him as he wants. As she says this though, she leans in a little too close to his face. The moment grows awkward, and both of them blush. The next day at school, Himari walks over to Saito's desk and asks if he has a specific type of girl he likes. She explains that she heard he doesn't have a type but wants to confirm it directly, raises an eyebrow and asks where she got that information. Himari doesn't want to admit that she had Akane ask him, so she avoids the question. Moving past that, Saito answers her directly. He says he doesn't believe in categorizing people into types. For him, he would never know if he wanted to be with someone unless he spent time getting to know them first. Himari finds his answer charming. She explains that most boys who show interest in her don't know anything about her. When she asks them what they like about her, they usually mention her chest. I asked for a personality analysis, not a boob review. Saito says that must be frustrating, especially for someone as pretty as she is. Himari freezes for a second. She can't believe Saito actually called her pretty. Saito doesn't understand why she's so shocked by the compliment. He thinks it's obvious she's attractive. Once Himari settles down, she brings up what Saito said about needing to get to know someone before liking them. Then she leans in and softly whispers in his ear, asking if he thinks he could ever fall for someone like her. Saito is stunned by the question and asks if she's being serious. Embarrassed, Himari pulls back, says it was just a joke, and quickly runs off. Classic move. Drop a love bomb and sprint away like it's a relay race. Later that day, while Saito relaxes in the living room playing games, Akane quietly sneaks into his room. She begins looking around for anything that might help her gather more information for Himari. Eventually, she spots his diary and reaches for it, but right at that moment, Saito walks in and catches her. Akane immediately jumps back and gets defensive. She yells that she's not secretly collecting information about him for anyone. Saito stares at her in confusion, completely unaware of what she's talking about. He shrugs it off and tells her there's no point snooping anyway. Akane asks Saito if he can recommend one of his favorite books to her. Saito is happy to help. He hands her a thick book about history and the art of war. He explains that he enjoys reading it because it makes him laugh at how foolish people can be. Akane doesn't really understand the appeal, but she accepts the book and later shares the information with Himari. The next day at school, Himari meets up with Akane and admits she couldn't understand a single word of the book. Akane apologizes. She realizes she should have asked Saito to recommend something simpler. However, Himari doesn't mind. In fact, she prefers it this way because now she has an excuse to talk to Saito directly. The following day, Himari proves she wasn't bluffing about pursuing Saito. The very next day at school, she brings him a homemade lunch. Knowing he likes steak, she makes it just for him. Saito politely declines, saying he already packed his own lunch, but Himari urges him to at least taste what she made since she put in so much effort. Their classmates also start encouraging him, so Saito gives in and agrees to try a bite. Pleased with his response, Himari feeds him a piece. Saito takes one bite and is surprised by how good it tastes, so he keeps eating. Akane, watching from nearby, feels jealous seeing Saito enjoy Himari's food so much. That moment, your crush is being fed by your rival, also your bestie. Even though Himari doesn't understand why Akane looks upset, she tries to include her by offering to feed her too.
What? What the fuck?
This catches Akane off guard and leaves her flustered. Later that day, Himari talks to Saito again. She tells him she's struggling with math and asks if he can help her study. Saito doesn't see a problem with that and agrees. Then Himari suggests they study at her house. She casually adds that her parents won't be around, so it'll just be the two of them. Saito gives her a skeptical look and tells her to quit messing around since that sounds like a date. But that's exactly what Himari is aiming for. She already told him she plans to keep flirting until he eventually falls for her. Akane, however, refuses to let this slide. She let the lunch incident go, but there's no way she's letting Himari and Saito spend that much time alone. Unable to admit her own jealousy, Akane warns Himari that Saito might try something indecent if they're alone.
What do you mean by that?
But Himari just smiles and says she was kind of hoping he would. Akane becomes even more determined to stop Himari from being alone with Saito. As a compromise, Himari offers a solution. Akane can join the study session too. If the top two students in the class help her, maybe she can reach third place on the next test. Just then, Shisei suddenly appears after overhearing someone talk about taking her spot in the rankings. Since she's currently the third smartest in class, Himari suggests they should all study together. With 4 people now involved, they decide it makes sense to hold the session at Akane's house. Before everyone arrives, Akane quickly hides all signs that Saito lives there. Once they sit down, Saito asks Himari which part of the math material confuses her. She responds that she doesn't understand any of it. He rephrases the question, asking when the confusion began. Himari admits that things have been unclear ever since math started involving letters. Akane notes that Himari's grades began slipping during their first year of high school. With that information, Saito finally knows where to begin. After a short time, Himari starts solving problems by herself. Impressed, she tells Saito he's a great tutor and asks him to keep going, but she leans in really close, making Saito uncomfortable. He tells her to back off because it's too awkward, and Akane is clearly getting angry. Right then, Shisei clings to Saito and says she's bored. Saito, trying to ease the tension, suggests they all take a break and play a game for a while. Strategic move before he got hangover night. Instead of choosing a game like Mario Kart, Akane decides on a card memory game. She wants to prove that she is smarter than Saito. However, Saito ends up defeating everyone with ease because of his strong memory. He decides to stop playing and tells the others they can continue without him. He steps out to buy some snacks. While he's gone, Akane catches up with him. She senses that he is feeling a bit down. She begins the conversation by saying she didn't realize how good his memory was. Saito admits he doesn't like to talk about it. People often call him creepy because of it. Everyone in the Hojo family is born with a unique trait. Shisei, for example, can mentally process large amounts of data. Saito's gift is his powerful memory. Sometimes he remembers minor personal details about others. This makes people think he is a stalker. Akane tells him his memory is not creepy at all. She says she would love to have a skill like that. It would make studying easier and she could remember more about the people she cares about. After buying the snacks, they head back together. To their shock, they find Himari and Shisei playing video games on Saito's console. Akane quickly comes up with an excuse for why the console is there. Saito then asks her why she didn't hide it earlier. Later, they all sit down and enjoy the snacks. Himari thanks Saito for helping her. She feels more confident with math now. Saito says tutoring her was fun because she learns quickly. He offers to help her again if she ever needs it. Himari is glad to hear that. She was hoping for another study session and maybe next time they could have it at his house. Saito gets choked for a moment since this is actually his house, and he tells Himari she can't come over. Himari finds his reaction adorable and tries to get closer to him. In doing so, she accidentally knocks over her cup of tea, spilling it on her shirt. Saito quickly rushes to the drawers and grabs a towel for her. Himari appreciates the gesture, but asks how he knew where the towels were. Saito claims he just guessed, and Himari accepts the answer without thinking much of it. To her, it makes sense. Sayo is smart enough to figure something like that out. Himari goes to clean her shirt, and Shisei guides her to the bathroom. Once she's gone, Akane confronts Saito. She blames him for the situation and says it's his fault for agreeing to tutor Himari. Saito defends himself, saying there's nothing wrong with helping a friend, but Akane snaps that he's never offered to help her before. Saito corrects her, reminding her that he did try once, but she yelled at him. Akane admits she reacted that way because she was too embarrassed to accept help from someone she considers her rival. At that moment, the lights go out. Akane immediately panics, terrified of the dark, and clings to Saito. He explains it's just a power outage and wants to check the breaker, but Akane begs him not to leave her alone. She suddenly apologizes for always being so stubborn, but Saito reassures her that she's fine just the way she is. He admits that she can be a little annoying at times and struggles to express her feelings, but he's starting to realize that she never intends to hurt anyone. Because of that, he doesn't mind if she acts a bit selfish now and then. Right at that moment, the lights come back on, and Himari and Shisei return to the living room. When Himari sees Akane holding onto Saito, she smiles, thinking it's sweet that the two of them are finally getting along. The following day at school, Saito talks with Shisei about the power outage from the night before. He still doesn't know what caused it and asks if she had anything to do with it. Shisei denies it and says she had nothing to do with the blackout. While they're talking, Himari approaches Saito and asks if he can tutor her again. Saito agrees without hesitation. Himari also invites Akane to join them, but Akane refuses, saying she has nothing to learn from someone like Saito. However, after Himari walks away, Akane quietly approaches Saito and asks him to help her study. Later that night, when they get home, Saito teaches Akane a memorization method, and to his surprise, it works really well for her. She thanks him for sharing his technique, but in truth, the method isn't his. Saito has never needed to study himself, but he created a few techniques as experiments and tested them on different people to see how effective they were. Akane is the first person who has been able to use it so easily, so he figures it must be because she's naturally intelligent. After a while, Saito says they've studied enough for one night and suggests they stop there, but Akane insists on continuing until morning. Saito knows she's working hard to become a doctor, but he still doesn't fully understand why that goal means so much to her. She tells him that it's none of his business, and Saito agrees, but he still wants to understand what drives her. Seeing that he's genuinely curious, Akane decides to open up. She begins explaining that when she was younger, she had a little sister who was very sick. Her sister was often too weak to leave her bed, and their parents had to work constantly just to keep up with the hospital bills. Her sister would cry out in pain, and the only thing Akane could do was sit beside her, gently pat her head, and watch her suffer. Eventually, her sister passed away. Akane couldn't save her back then, but there are others in the world facing similar pain, and now she wants to help those people in any way she can. Saito is thankful that Akane trusted him with something so personal. Ever since she told him about her sister, though, she seemed more distant and gloomy. Unsure of how to help, Saito turns to Shisei for advice. After listening to the situation, Shisei pauses for a moment before suggesting that Akane might feel better if she got to do something enjoyable with him, like going shopping. Saito replies that he already goes shopping with Akane all the time, but that's not what Shisei means. She explains that even if Akane doesn't show it, she's figured out that Akane actually likes girly things. So instead of the usual errands, Shisei suggests something lighthearted, like browsing sweets or fashionable items. She even knows the perfect event for it. A festival is happening in town, offering sweets from all over the world. Later that day, while Akane is making dinner, Saito walks up to her and asks if she'd like to go out with him on their next day off. The question catches her so off guard that she accidentally burns the food. Still, she agrees to the outing with Saito. The following day, she goes to visit her grandmother to talk about it. Her grandmother is overjoyed that Akane and Saito are finally getting along, to the point where she says she could die happy right now. But before that happens, she insists on getting Akane ready for her date. She brings her to a secret closet filled with clothes she has been collecting over the years, saved specifically for the day Akane falls in love. Akane, however, quickly denies being in love with Saito. When the day of the date finally arrives, Saito is momentarily speechless when he sees Akane. She looks beautiful in the dress, and it takes him a second to recover. They head out into the city, and Saito suggests visiting a cat cafe first, knowing how much Akane adores cats. But Akane immediately shuts down the idea. She explains that she's been to that cafe before and got a little too excited, so much so that she ended up getting banned for life. Despite that, she still really wants to go back. Since the cafe is off limits, Saito decides to take her to a karaoke room instead. Akane starts to panic, thinking he might be planning something now that they're alone in a private room.
What?
Saito calmly reminds her that they literally share a bed every night, so if he had any intentions like that, he would have acted on them a long time ago. Akane eventually chooses a song for them, and they end up having a great time singing together. Afterwards, Saito takes her to a lemonade shop he thought she'd enjoy. Akane orders a strawberry lemonade, and he was right. She absolutely loves it. She's genuinely had a great time, but she can't help wondering why Saito asked her out in the first place. He always seems to have a reason behind everything he does. Saito admits that he planned the outing to cheer her up, especially after bringing up memories that were painful for her. Akane is caught off guard by his honesty. She didn't expect such thoughtfulness from him. Wanting to return the gesture, she tells him he can pick the next stop, and she'll go along with whatever he chooses. She immediately regrets saying that when he leads her into a supplement store. As soon as they enter, a muscular man offers Saito a tray of supplements. Without hesitation, Saito begins devouring them enthusiastically, clearly enjoying himself. After stocking up on everything he needs, they leave the store and start heading home. Along the way, Akane notices a ring in a shop window that catches her eye. Saito encourages her to buy it if she likes it that much. Akane admits she wants to, but the price is way beyond what she can afford right now. Saito checks the price tag and sees that it really is expensive. Akane shrugs it off and says she'll just wait until she starts earning money, though by then someone else will probably have bought the ring. As they continue walking, Akane turns to Saito and thanks him for inviting her out. She genuinely feels a lot better after spending the day with him. Akane's cheerful mood doesn't last long. By the next day, she's back to complaining about everything Saito does, no matter how small. Saito wishes they could go at least one day without bickering. Then he remembers how much Akane seemed to want the ring she saw yesterday, and he starts thinking of a plan. At this point, even Cold War countries had better communication than these two. At school, Saito approaches Shisei and asks if he can visit her place after classes. Shisei wonders if there's a specific reason, but Saito simply says he wants to spend time with her since they haven't hung out much lately. Delighted by the idea, Shisei agrees and quickly calls for a ride. Within minutes, her limousine arrives at the school gate. Saito hesitates, remembering his past experiences with this car, and politely asks Rui, the driver, to go easy this time. But Rui only drives two ways, fast and faster. Rui probably thinks speed bumps are just weak suggestions. After a high-speed, nerve-wracking ride, they finally reach Shisei's mansion. They head up to her room, and without hesitation, Shisei starts changing her clothes. Saito quickly tells her to stop and change somewhere else, but Shisei doesn't see any issue with changing in front of him. In fact, she says she prefers when he helps her get dressed, leaving Saito with no real choice. At this point, Saito's life is less romantic comedy and more accidental harem simulator 3000. Once Saito finishes helping her, Shisei asks what game he wants to play. He doesn't have any particular game in mind, so she suggests they play Vampires. The game involves Shisei trying to climb on top of Saito and suck and dry, which seems to be part of the fun for her. That's not a game. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. In the middle of their chaotic play session, Saito's aunt walks into the room. She dotes on him just as much as Shisei does, and happily invites him to stay for dinner and spend the night at their place. Saito really needs to start charging rent for all the women occupying his personal space. However, Saito says he needs to head home soon since Akane will be waiting for him. Still, while he's there, he takes the chance to ask his aunt if he can help out at her company. He's currently looking for a part-time job. His aunt looks a bit surprised. If he needs money, she points out, he could simply ask his grandfather, but Saito explains that he doesn't want to owe his grandfather anything. He wants wants to earn the money himself. Man's trying to earn respect, not inheritance. Speedrun. She asks him what he needs the money for, and Saito replies that he's planning to buy a gift. The moment he says this, both Shisei and her mother realize who the present is meant for. Shisei feels hurt, thinking Saito only came over to use their time together as an excuse to speak with her mother. Saito assures her that he genuinely wanted to spend time with her. Even so, Shisei's mother doesn't think it's appropriate for Saito to take on a part-time job as the heir to the Hojo family. It sends the wrong message. She already disapproves of the fact that he was forced into marrying a girl at random. Saito senses that she's against his marriage to Akane, and she doesn't hide it. She had hoped Saito would marry Shisei one day. The in-law drama is so dense, even Shakespeare would have said tone it down. Despite that, she agrees to give him some work. She explains that the localization department needs someone to help translate their software. The source code is written in an obscure language that no one has managed to translate so far. Still, if it's Saito, she expects he could learn it in 3 days. But Saito says there's no need for that. He can finish it in a single night. That night, Saito prepares himself to start learning the new programming language. He flips through the pages of the reference material at lightning speed, absorbing the code with ease. Suddenly, Akane barges into the room, stunned to see Saito actually studying. Saito explains that he's not studying for school, he's just learning a new language. After a few more minutes of flipping through the material, he closes the book and announces that he's finished memorizing everything. Now all he needs is a good night's rest, so the information sticks. Akane is genuinely amazed and blurts out that she wishes she had Saito inside her.
Yeah, boy.
Realizing how that sounds, she immediately turns red and clarifies that she meant she wants his brain, not anything else. Trying to shift the subject, she asks why he's even learning a language in the first place. Saito doesn't want to tell her about the job, so he simply says it's not her concern. The following day, after school, Saito heads to Shisei's mansion to begin the work. Once they arrive, he settles in to get started, but Shisei is sitting right in his lap, making it nearly impossible to focus. When Saito asks her to move, she refuses and suddenly bites him on the neck. That would have sent some network through his body. He sighs and asks if she's upset about the gift he's planning to buy for Akane. Shisei says that's not the problem. She knows giving Akane a present might make their married life smoother. What bothers her is that ever since the marriage, Saito hasn't had time to play with her. She's been feeling lonely. Saito apologizes for not being around, but Shisei doesn't blame him. She knows he has a lot of responsibilities right now. Still, she has one small request. Just for tonight, she wants him to stay in bed with her until she falls asleep. This small request is how most end up in jail. Later that evening, Saito finally returns home. Akane is waiting for him and immediately questions where he's been this late. Saito tells her he just had a few errands to run and that it doesn't concern her. He walks past her toward the bedroom, but as he does, Akane catches the scent of another girl on him. Suspicious and bothered, she decides she'll bring it up with her grandmother the next day. Akane tells her grandmother that Saito has been coming home late and skipping dinner with her. Her grandmother calmly points out that Saito is quite good looking, so it's likely he gets a lot of attention from other girls. Grandma's spitting facts like she's got a podcast. Akane admits there's one girl in particular who has a crush on him but says they're just friends. If Saito had been spending time with her, she believes he would have said something. Her grandmother quickly catches on to what's really bothering her. Akane is afraid that Saito might not actually like her, but she struggles to put those feelings into words. Offering some wisdom, her grandmother tells her that while others may lie to her, life is too short to lie to herself. Granny just dropped a TED Talk in the middle of a rom-com. The next morning, as Saito sits on a bench at school, he is greeted by Maho, but he has never spoken to her before, so he asks her, "Who are you, and what do you want?" He looks through his memories and finally recalls seeing the girl one time in the past, but he still has no idea who she is. Maho becomes devastated that Saito does not know anything about her, but anyway, she tells him she likes him and wants him, so she asks Saito to be her boyfriend. Saito becomes beyond shocked by the sudden proposal from an absolute stranger, but Maho says she is not a stranger because she actually knows a lot about him, like the fact that he was asked out by Himari but turned her down, and that he is currently living with Akane. She knows more about him than Google, and she doesn't even need Wi-Fi. Saito becomes serious and asks how she could possibly know that, but Maho dodges the question and asks him if he's willing to go out with her now. Saito still refuses, but then Maho threatens to tell the entire school that he is married to Akane if he does not do what she says. He thinks she is bluffing at first, but then she actually starts yelling out loud. Sayato is forced to cover her mouth, and she uses it as an excuse to try kissing him. Fortunately, Shisei comes to the rescue and kicks Maho away to save Sayato. She swears that she will protect Saito no matter what, but forgets to protect herself. Classic superhero move. Save the day. Forget the helmet. When Maho comes back, she goes after Shisei since she is so cute. Maho asks Saito if she can keep Shisei for herself, but Saito obviously refuses, so Maho just attempts to kidnap Shisei. Anyway, luckily the school bell rings just in time, so Maho drops Shisei and excitedly runs off to pack up her stuff. Saito is relieved that he can finally relax, but Shisei can tell that Maho is going to be troublesome, so she warns Saito to be careful. Saito later heads back to his class to pack has stuff as well. As he looks out the window, he sees that Shisei, Akane, and Himari are already going home, so he can finally spend some alone time today. However, all hope of alone time disappears when Maho comes looking for him. Every guy in class gets mad at him for having another cute girl, so he is forced to run out of class with Maho. Seems he's not building a harem, he's just dodging it like a gym class dodgeball. Once they are alone, Saito asks Maho what made her decide to ask him out in the first place. She tells him it was love at first sight. Saito does not buy it because he knows he is not handsome enough for that to happen, but Maho really does think he is good looking. Just then, she slides down the railing to force Saito to catch her, and when Saito gets upset that she put herself in danger, she tells him, "Life is too short to play it safe all the time, because you never know when you might end up dying." That is why Maho wanted to confess to Saito as soon as she realized she was in love with him. Although Saito cannot relate because he has never been in love, Maho asks him if he is really not in love with Akane, even though they live together, but Saito tells her it is not a matter of whether or not he likes her, he just has no choice. In that case, Maho asks if he would like to try falling in love with her, and she already has the perfect place for a first date. Saito initially turns her down, but then she asks him if he could at least show her around town since she is still new here. So, Saito agrees, and they end up going to McDonald's together. While there, Maho orders an absolutely massive cheeseburger and somehow manages to inhale the entire thing in 1 second. Saito is shocked by how much she likes junk food, but he can't really judge her for it because he likes junk food just as much. Maho says her sister always yells at her whenever she eats junk food, but it's annoying, even though she knows her sister is only looking out for her. Honestly, with the way Maho downs fast food, she's not eating to live. She's auditioning for a role as the human garbage disposal. Just then, she notices some sauce on Saito's finger, so she seizes the opportunity and licks it clean.
Yeah, boy.
Saito is concerned that Maho is willing to lick his fingers with no hesitation, but he's even more concerned about the fact that she just took a picture while doing it. He demands that she delete it immediately. She refuses, so he chases after her. When he gets outside, he finds Maho sitting around the corner of the building out of breath. She can't run away anymore, so she deletes the photo, and Saito is satisfied. He tells her they can go back to the shopping district now. Maho is surprised that Saito still wants to hang out with her after what she just did, but Saito was never really mad at her. He just can't have her taking pictures of him like that. From what Maho has been told, Saito and Akane get into fights all the time, but Saito seems like a chill guy, so she assumes he and Akane must just be incompatible. Saito can't deny it, since he and Akane don't get along well. So Maho asks him why he doesn't just break up with her, but that's not really an option for him. This isn't a love triangle, it's a group project where no one wants to present. Later that evening, Saito is done showing Maho around town, so he tells her he's gonna go home now. But Maho says she wants to come over to his house and spend the night. Saito immediately refuses, so Maho resorts to blackmail again and threatens to tell everyone about his and Akane's marriage. Saito is left with no choice but to allow her to come over, so he leads her to his house and rings the doorbell for Akane to let him in. Akane opens the door and is about to yell at Saito for getting home late, but then she freezes after seeing her little sister on Saito's arm. Saito can't believe that Maho is really Akane's sister, and Akane is surprised Maho didn't mention it at all. Anyway, Maho comes inside, and the first thing she does is give her big sister a huge hug. It's been so long since she saw her, but then Maho starts making the hug weird, so Akane has to push her off. Saito has several questions like, for one, he thought Akane's sister was dead. Akane doesn't understand why he would think that because she never said anything about Maho dying. All she said was that she couldn't see her sister anymore, a better place, and it was true because Maho had been traveling the world. It's just been a long time since she last came back to Japan. Now that she's here, she wants to inspect Saito and Akane's married life. She heads straight for the bedroom, and when she sees the double bed, she asks Akane if she and Saito sleeps together every night. Akane says they do, so Maho assumes that must mean Akane and Saito have done the deed because there's no way two people who aren't siblings sleep together and nothing happens. Maho's logic is basically one bed equals action. Someone get this girl a hotel commercial. Akane assures her that she's never done that kind of thing with Saito before. Maho is relieved to hear that, but she still wants to make sure no funny business happens, so she says she wants to spend the night. She asks Akane if she can sleep over, and Akane is more than happy to accommodate her, telling Maho she can stay as long as she likes. To celebrate Maho's arrival, Akane decides to make a pot of porridge for dinner, but Maho and Saito really don't like the sound of that, especially Maho. When she was little, Akane would always force her to eat porridge whenever she got sick, so trauma starts coming back to her even thinking about it. It's not just porridge, it's war flashbacks in a bowl. Akane still intends to make porridge though. She heads to the fridge to get some ingredients but finds Shisei's body almost completely frozen.
What? What the fuck?
After getting Shisei out of the fridge, Saito checks too, make sure she's alright. Shisei starts asking him to give her mouth to mouth, but if she can talk, Saito says she must be fine. Classic, help me, but also flirt with me. Combo, Shisei really said. CPR stands for cute people romance. Just then, Maho comes running up and offers to give Shisei mouth to mouth instead.
Yeah, boy.
But Shisei jumps back into the fridge to get away from her, then hides behind Saito. Maho begs Saito to please let her have Shisei, but he'd never give up his beloved little sister. Maho points out that since Saito is married to Akane, that makes Shisei her sister-in-law, but Shisei refuses to let her title be stolen. She challenges Maho to a little sister duel. Saito has no idea what a a little sister duel. It's supposed to be, but before he can figure it out, Maho has already gotten behind him and starts giving him the step bro experience. Saito is not into that, so he gives her a score of 0. This house needs fewer siblings and more security cameras. Chisei then steps up to show Maho how to act like a real little sister. She falls to the ground and pretends to be hurt, activating all of Saito's big brother instincts and compelling him to pick her up. It's pretty clear that Chisei won the contest, but Akane still says Maho is the best little sister in the world. Akane and Maho head into Akane's room so they can chat in private. Akane asks why Maho didn't tell her she was coming to Japan. Maho says she just wanted to surprise her, and Akane was definitely surprised, especially because Maho showed up clinging to Saito's arm. Speaking of Saito, Maho says she has a proposition for Akane. She thinks it would be better if she marries Saito instead of Akane. She knows this whole thing started because their grandma and Saido's grandpa wanted to see what a youthful romance would look like through their grandkids, so there's no reason Maho can't take Akane's place. Plus, she's sure she could convince their grandma to fund Akane's education even if she isn't married to Saito. Akane tries saying the plan would never work because Maho couldn't handle a guy like Saito. He's arrogant, egocentric, and thinks he's great at everything, which he is, but that's not the point. Maho doesn't see that as a problem. She's sure she could get along great with Saito. Plus, she has a lot in common with him, like her love for junk food and video games, while Akane absolutely hates those things. Akane asks if Maho is really okay with this, since it would be much better to marry someone she actually loves, but Maho says she really likes Saito. Sure, she doesn't know much about him yet, but he's hot, and that's enough for Maho. She then shows Akane the picture she took earlier that day to prove how close she and Saito are, saying they would surely get along as a married couple. Naki, in Maho's world, romance requires 3 things: attraction, aggression, and incriminating selfies. Maho then gets up to go spend some time with Saito, and Akane doesn't know how to feel about it. Meanwhile, Saito is taking a bath when Maho suddenly enters and says she wants to bathe with him. Saito tells her to get out, but Maho doesn't listen and gets in the bath anyway. She then asks if he'd be fine with marrying her. The only thing their grandparents care about is their grandkids getting married to each other, so it would be fine if Maho became his wife instead. She tells him she's very committed and would let him do anything he wants with her.
Yes.
This girl skipped flirting, skipped dating, skipped personal space. She's just speedrunning romance like it's a boss battle. Saito has to muster a lot of willpower to resist the temptation, so he tells her he'll have to think about it. But Maho makes it clear that she isn't joking. After Saito finishes his bath, he heads to the bedroom looking completely exhausted. Akane asks what's wrong, so he tells her that Maho is so energetic it's draining to be around her. Akane understands what he means, but she's glad to see Maho in such high spirits. When she was a kid, she was always sick and stuck in the hospital, so she might be a little bratty at times, but Akane still wants to give her as much as she can to make her happy. Saito is about to go to sleep, but before he does, Akane says there's something she wants to ask him. She wonders if Saito wants to break up with her. Saito immediately gets up and questions why she would ask such a thing, but Akane doesn't know how to respond. The next day, everyone goes to an amusement park together as part of a homecoming party for Maho, but Himari immediately senses something isn't right, so she asks Maho what her relationship with Saito is. Maho says she is currently trying to win over Saito's heart. That makes her Himari's rival, and Himari isn't going to let someone steal Saito away from her.
Yeah, boy.
The two girls start fighting over him while Saito ignores them and heads to the first ride. The group enjoys various rides together, but when it comes to the roller coaster, Akane gets so scared that she passes out until the ride is over, and it nexting in a thirst why it is. She tries to pretend that rides don't scare her, but when they go on the Ferris wheel next, she shakes so much that Saito has to ask if she's okay. Akane's soul left her body somewhere between the first drop and the photo booth. Akane finally admits that she's terrified of amusement park rides and heights. Saito asks why she came if she hates it so much. She tells him she just wanted to make Maho happy because Maho has always loved parks, festivals, and big groups. Since she was practically always bedridden as a child, she's probably trying to make up for lost time. That's why Akane wants to make Maho's day as fun as possible. Saito thinks it's sweet that Akane is facing her fears for Maho's sake, so he asks if she wants to hold hands until they get back to the ground. Akane gets flustered and asks if he's trying to make a move on her, but he says holding hands might calm her down. When he grabs her hand, she does stop shaking, so she decides to hold his hand a little longer. From panic to peace in 2.5 fingers, science still can't explain the hand-holding effect. However, no amount of hand-holding could stop Akane from freaking out at the haunted house. Himari ends up waiting outside with her while she calms down. Saito and Maho, meanwhile, Maho in particular is fascinated by how realistic everything is. Saito reminds her that the point of a haunted house is to get scared, so why come if she doesn't find it scary? Maho replies that she enjoys watching other people freak out. Suddenly, Maho falls to the ground. Saito asks if she's okay. She says she just got too excited and is tired so she can't walk. She asks Saito to carry her outside, which he does, placing her on a bench so she can catch her breath. He asks if she needs medication or if he should call Akane, but Maho insists she's fine and doesn't want Akane to worry. She then admits she was faking it. Saito yells at her, saying it's not okay to joke about life or death situations. She apologizes and spins around to prove she's fine but only ends up dizzy. 10 points for enthusiasm, minus 50 for balance. That evening, as Saito is getting ready for bed, he lies down, only to find that the person next to him isn't Akane, but Maho. She's on top of them. Despite the awkward timing, Saito asks if she remembers being at one of his grandpa's parties years ago, around the time he graduated elementary school. He remembers spending the night talking to a girl who looked just like Maho, though he never got her name. Maho tells him that the girl was her, and she's glad he remembers. But now, she wants to get down to business and starts unbuttoning his shirt. Saito protests, saying they should at least get to know each other first. Maho insists it's fine because she's in love with him. Saito isn't convinced. He can tell Maho hates him for some reason. Maho tries to deny it, but her words lack conviction. Eventually, she admits she really does hate Saito, but still wants to kiss him. Just then, Akane walks into the room and sees Maho on top of Saito. No amount of explanation can convince her nothing happened, so she yells that she hates them both and kicks them out. Forget fireworks, the real explosion happened in that bedroom. Maho, still not taking it seriously, suggests she and Saito camp out for the night. Saito refuses and says he'll walk her home. Maho asks where he's going to stay, and although he could go to Shisei's house, he doesn't want to bother her, so he says he'll get a hotel. As soon as he says this, Maho begs to tag along. Not wanting to share a room with her, Saito rushes into his hotel room and locks the door. Maho bangs on the door, trying to convince him to let her in. When he refuses, she threatens to break down the door with a fire extinguisher, so he's forced to let her in. After wrestling the extinguisher out of her hands, Saito pins her to the bed to stop her from causing more trouble and says he's kicking her out. Then Maho starts crying. At first, Saito thinks she's faking it again, but she's genuinely in tears, afraid that Saito hates her now, just like Akane. Saito asks if she's still upset about what Akane said, and of course she is. In all their years together, Akane had never yelled or said she hated Maho, even when she pulled pranks. If Akane said that now, it must mean she never wants to speak to her again. Maho apologizes for causing Saito trouble and offers to make it up to him with her body. He still refuses. After pushing her off, he agrees to let her stay for the night, but only if she quits trying to seduce him. At this point, even Cupid's exhausted and wants a refund. Maho then asks if he can tuck her in and pat her head until she falls asleep, something he does for Shisei all the time, so he agrees. The two go to sleep. The next morning, Saito notices something's wrong with Maho. She's gasping for air and feels cold. She tells him she didn't take her usual medication last night and now isn't feeling well. Saito asks why, and Maho says she didn't get a chance to grab them when Akane kicked her out. She thought she could manage one night without them, but clearly she was wrong. Saito wants to call an ambulance, but Maho begs him not to. If he does, Akane will find out, and she doesn't want her to worry. She says this happens all the time. Saito agrees not to call, but insists she needs to go to the hospital. He carries her outside and takes a cab. At the hospital, Maho's condition turns out to be worse than expected, so she has to stay for a while. The hospital already called her parents. Saito thinks it'll be awkward if he's still around when they arrive, so he prepares to leave, but before he goes, Maho pleads with him not to tell Akane. Saito asks why, sure that Akane would want to visit, but that's exactly why Maho doesn't want her to know. Akane already sacrificed so much for her when they were kids, and Maho doesn't want to burden her anymore. Saito understands and promises to keep it a secret. Maho thanks him and apologizes for everything. Outside, Saito calls Shisei and asks if he can stay over since he can't go home. Shisei asks if he had a fight with Akane, and Saito says it was pretty serious. Shisei offers to pick him up immediately. Shisei is about to become the emergency contact for emotional disasters. At school that day, Akane confronts Saito and asks where Maho is. She hasn't heard from her since last night. Her parents told her Maho is traveling, but Akane doesn't buy it. Maho would have said goodbye before leaving. Plus, she's not responding to calls or texts. Akane suspects something's wrong and thinks Saito knows more than he's letting on. Saito insists that he and Maho aren't close and says class is starting, so he walks off. Akane had also hoped to ask him when he's coming home. That afternoon, Saito visits Maho in the hospital and brings her a burger. Maho is grateful for the junk food, but Saito says he can't keep sneaking stuff like that in or he'll get in trouble. He asks why she's traveling the world when her condition is so poor. Maho tells him it's because she's afraid she could die any day. She wants to experience as much as she can while she still has time. Also, Akane worries less when Maho is abroad. Even if she gets sick, Akane won't know. She's already caused her enough trouble. This is the first time reckless travel plans have made someone less stressful to their family. Saito finally understands. He realizes Maho was never trying to seduce him seriously. She was trying to take some burden off Akane's shoulders. He once thought Maho hated him for stealing. Since Akane always got upset when Saito scored better on tests, Maho assumed she must be unhappy in her marriage, so she offered to marry Saito instead. But maybe that was wrong, because now Akane hates her. Saito reassures her that Akane still cares deeply, but if Maho really wants to fix things, she needs to rest and get better so she can talk to Akane in person. Maho agrees and lies down, letting Saito hold her hand. She asks why he's being so kind to her. He says it's because he wants Akane to be happy, and she would be sad if Maho were left alone in a hospital. This man just pulled off a heartfelt monologue with hospital lighting and a cold cheeseburger Oscar-worthy. After Maho falls asleep, Saito gets up to leave but finds Akane standing at the door. She runs away to the elevator, unable to face him after hearing what he said, especially the part about wanting her to be happy. 1 week later, Maho is fully recovered and meets with Akane. She apologizes for trying to seduce Saito and explains she thought Akane was unhappy being married to him. She tried really hard, but Saito didn't budge. The closest they got was that one time they took a bath together, though Saito quickly stops her from finishing that sentence. What Maho wants to say is that Saito hasn't done anything wrong, and Akane shouldn't be mad at him. Akane agrees and says she'll let it all go, but asks Maho to stop trying to take her place. She doesn't want Maho to suffer from being around Saito every day. However, Maho says she might have actually fallen in love with Saito. If Akane doesn't want to stay married to him, she'd still be happy to take her place. For some reason, this makes Akane mad at Saito. She yells at him for seducing her sister and storms off. This guy can't breathe near a girl without getting hit with a felony. While Maho is still there, she tells Saito she figured out who the girl from the party really was. Saito is confused. Didn't Maho say it was her? That was a lie, and she'll only tell him the truth if he gives her a kiss. Saito yells at her to go back to class. He returns to class and finds Akane, who says she has something to ask. Was what he said about wanting her to be happy true? Saito, flustered, admits it was. Akane is glad to hear that, so she asks if he'll come home already. After all, it would be bad if their grandparents found out he hasn't been home in a week. Saito agrees, but the two fail to notice that Himari is standing right behind them, and now she knows that Saito and Akane live together. She ends up blurting it out loud without thinking. Himari just accidentally speedran her own heartbreak arc. Everyone in class knows about it. They've been suspicious of Saito and Akane for a while, so they start hounding them for an explanation. Even on the way home, Saito and Shisei realize that a few of their classmates are trying to follow Saito home to see if he really lives with Akane, and it's getting really annoying. Shisei asks if she should call the family sniper to handle them, but Saito doesn't think it's worth the trouble. Instead, he grabs Shisei and runs onto a bus before any of his classmates can follow him. They go all the way to the final bus stop to make sure they weren't followed, but now they're in the middle of nowhere with no service, and the next bus isn't going to arrive until tomorrow, so they might be stuck out there. Fortunately, Shisei's maid had put a tracking device on her a while ago, so she eventually pulls up to pick them up. With that, Saito manages to get home without anyone following him, but he and Akane are practically trapped now because they can't risk running into any of their classmates outside. Just then, they hear a sound upstairs and Akane thinks it's an intruder, so she grabs a suit of armor and a bat to deal with the problem. But Saito stops her. It turns out the intruder was Himari, who just came in through the back door. She says she brought Maho with her, so everyone sits down to talk. First off, Himari apologizes since this whole mess happened because she couldn't keep her mouth shut, but Akane says it's their fault for lying to her about it for so long. Saito apologizes to her as well for keeping it a secret, but Himari admits that she could kind of tell they've been living together. Last time she came over, Saito's stuff was there, and he seemed to know his way around the house a little too well, so it was kind of obvious. And since Saito is part of the Hojo family, Himari assumes he and Akane must be married for business reasons. However, she's only partially right. Saito explains that his grandpa and Akane's grandma just wanted to see what it would be like for their kids to be married. So there's no actual relationship between them, even though they're technically married. But all Himari cares about is that Akane and Saito aren't really in love, so she still has a chance of getting together with him. Moving on, Maho says they should come up with a strategy to stop the rumors about Saito and Akane. Shisei suggests making everyone who heard it disappear, but for legal reasons, Saito shuts that idea down. No one else has any good suggestions, so Himari raises her hand and says she's thought of something. The rumors say that Saito and Akane are dating, which is why they are living together. So, to get rid of the rumors, they just need to show proof that Saito is dating someone else, and she's definitely not just saying this because she wants to date Saito. Himari's bias aside, Saito thinks the plan might work, so he agrees to become Himari's temporary boyfriend. Himari is overjoyed and wastes no time acting like a proper girlfriend in front of the entire school. It's so blatant that everyone is already starting to believe that Saito and Himari are a couple, but Himari is just getting started. To really seal the deal, Himari suggests that she and Saito spend some alone time in an empty classroom together. Saito has no objections, but he isn't sure what Himari has in mind exactly. He asks her what they're supposed to do now, but truth be told, she didn't expect him to agree to this, and she's starting to get a little embarrassed. Saito asks why she's the one getting embarrassed when it was her idea, but she reminds him that she genuinely has feelings for him, so it's hard for her to stay calm in a situation like this. Saito laughs a little, since this is the first time he's ever seen Himari lose her cool like this, but at the end of the day, she's doing this to help him out, so he's willing to go along with anything anything she asks of him, as long as they're only pretending. In that case, Himari says she'd like to cuddle with him for a bit, the same way he always does with Shisei. She almost immediately regrets saying it out loud, but Saito says it's fine. He lets Himari sit on his lap and she's really happy about it.
Yeah, boy.
She then asks him to hug her to really sell it, since all their classmates are spying on them right now. They just stay like that until the break is over. Inevitably, once they get back to class, Himari is confronted by all the girls who want to know why she was hugging Saito in an empty classroom. That's when Himari and Saito officially announce that they are dating. With how they've been acting all day, no one has any reason to doubt them. But Akane is starting to get a little jealous over how far Himari is taking this. She calls Himari out onto the roof to talk to her about it, but Akane can't bring herself to admit that she's jealous. Instead, she asks Himari if she's really okay with acting all lovey-dovey with Saito. Himari is loving the fact that she gets to spend so much time with him, and given Saito's stance on relationships, she knows she may not get another opportunity like this. So, she plans to go as far as she can with him. After school, Himari and Saito go on a little shopping date at the mall. After that, Saito walks her back to her apartment. He thanks Himari for playing the part of his girlfriend today. He's about to go home, but before he leaves, Himari calls him back and asks if he'd like to come upstairs and hang out with her a little.
What do you mean by that?
Saito is a little hesitant at first, but he eventually agrees. They head up together, and Himari invites him inside. Once Saito gets to Himari's room, he notices that she has a lot of books on psychology and social engineering. He's a little surprised. She's a lot smarter than he thought. He asks Himari about it, so she explains that back in middle school, Akane used to protect her from getting bullied, but that led to the bullies targeting Akane instead. So, Himari studied all kinds of psychological tricks so she could do things like control the flow of conversation and manipulate the bullies into leaving her and Akane alone. Saito thinks it's admirable that she works so hard for Akane's sake. Speaking of Akane, Himari then asks Saito if he has any romantic feelings for her. Saito tells her he doesn't think of Akane that way, and Himari is glad to hear that because it means she really does have a chance with him. Sayo eventually gets home later that night, and Akane is sitting there waiting for him. She asks why he's back so late, so he explains that he was just hanging out at Himari's place for a while. As soon as Akane hears this, she runs off and locks herself in her study room. Himari later calls to tell Akane all about her day with Saito and how much fun it was. Keep in mind, she's not saying all of this to spite Akane, she just genuinely enjoyed her day and wanted to talk to her best friend about it. She even asks if Akane is okay with this and offers to stop if it's making her jealous. But Akane can't be honest with herself, so she tells her it's fine, she's free to keep being Saito's girlfriend. The next day, Saito is sitting in the living room when he suddenly gets a call from his grandpa. He initially tries to ignore it, but then grandpa pops up on the TV, so there's no avoiding him now. Timria tells Saito that he's going to be hosting a party for his cousin's birthday, and this particular cousin is really important since she plays an integral role in helping Timria run the company. So if Saito plans to take over one day, then he had better get along with her. Akane hears Saito talking to someone in the living room, so she asks him what happened. He explains that his family is coming together for a party and asks Akane if she'd like to come. Akane freaks out a little because she wasn't expecting Saito to invite her, but he thinks it's a perfectly normal suggestion since he's going to have to introduce her to everyone eventually. Akane appreciates the offer, but she's not mentally prepared to meet Saito's family yet, especially not after what she's mother said to her last time they spoke. However, yet again, she can't bring herself to be honest with Saito, so she tells him she just doesn't want to go and that she'll be fine on her own. Saito doesn't want to force her if she doesn't want to go, but he asks her if she's really sure about this because he plans to spend the night at the party, and he's worried that she might get lonely without him. However, Akane says she doesn't need him around and that she can just invite Himari to come over. The next day, Saito gets ready for the party. Just as he is about to leave, he asks Akane one last time if she really doesn't want to come. Akane insists that she'll be okay without him, so Saito heads off to the party. Upon arrival, he is greeted by the staff at his grandpa's mansion. Once Tenryo spots Saito and Shisei, he calls them over to meet Chio, and both of them wish her a happy birthday. Tenryo asks where Akane is, so Saito explains that she was too nervous about meeting the relatives and decided not to come. Tenryo is disappointed since he was planning to tease Saito and Akane during the party, but she yells at him to stop messing around. Rue, me! There aren't many people in the family who can talk to Tenryo like that, so Saito asks her if she could tell him to stop forcing people to get married too, but there's not much she can do about that. She has dedicated her life to supporting Tenryo, and with how much he has developed the family business, she owes him quite a bit, so she can't force him to do anything. She tells Saito to just accept that Akane is his wife now. Although she admits she was shocked when she heard about Saito's marriage arrangements, since she was sure he would end up marrying Shisei. Shisei starts blushing at the idea of marrying Saito, but he is still oblivious about her feelings for him, so he doesn't understand why she's acting so weird. All of a sudden, late into the night, Shisei falls asleep at the party, so Sayo carries her back to her room and gets ready to go to bed. Just then, he gets a call from Akane, and he's a bit surprised that she called him. He answers and asks if something is wrong. Akane tells him that everything is fine, but she just feels strange being alone when she usually spends the day arguing with Saito. Saito doesn't know if her wanting to argue with him is a good thing, but after spending so much time with her, he knows this is just her way of saying she misses him. Back at home, Akane is trying her best to go to sleep, but she's gotten so used to sleeping next to Saito that she's terrified by the thought of sleeping alone. Just then, she hears a sound at the window and her heart begins to race because she thinks it might be a burglar. She wishes Saito were there to help her, but since she's alone, she takes matters into her own hands and grabs her bedside frying pan that she keeps in case of emergency. Just when she's about to whack the intruder, she realizes that it's actually Saito. She asks him why he's climbing through the window, but he had no other choice. Akane had chained up the front and back doors in her paranoia, and when he tried calling her, she couldn't hear him because she was wearing headphones. Akane apologizes for causing him so much trouble, but she wasn't expecting him to come home tonight since he said he was going to sleep over at the party. Saito admits that he had originally planned to do that, but after Akane called, he decided to come home anyway. Getting there was really hard because he had to take 3 buses and then walk 2 hours to get back, so he's really tired now. As soon as he is ready for bed, Saito passes out, and Akane is a little disappointed because she was hoping he would at least tell her about what happened at the party before falling asleep. However, she understands he must be tired, so she pulls the covers up and whispers, "Welcome home," into his ear before going to sleep. Saito is taken aback by Akane's sudden display of affection, but oddly, the voice she just used sounds exactly like the voice of the girl from that party when he was a kid. The next morning, Saito opens his eyes and finds Akane staring at him with a bright smile on her face, and it's such a rare sight that it startles him awake. And it's not just that, she has been uncharacteristically nice to him all morning, and he's starting to worry that something's wrong with her. Anyway, Saito has something he wants to talk about, so he asks Akane if high school was really the first time they met. Akane immediately becomes flustered and says she had never seen him before high school, but now that Saito really thinks about it, he recalls Akane talking to him like they'd met before when he first saw her. Akane tells him he must be misremembering things, but he has a photographic memory, so he knows what he's talking about. Akane doesn't want to explain it, but the truth is that she was the girl at that party. She was invited because of her grandma, but she really didn't feel like she fit in, so she went out onto the balcony to get some fresh air. That's when she first met Saito. Neither of them really liked the atmosphere of the party, so they spent the entire night talking to each other on the balcony. But once the party was over, Akane had to leave. She was convinced that she'd never see him again. She got so excited when she saw him at the high school entrance exams, but when she went over to say hi, he didn't recognize her at all, and that's the whole reason she started hating him in the first place. Saito has no idea why Akane suddenly got so upset, but she's locked herself in her study room and won't come out. He knocks on the door and asks if he did anything to offend her, but she tells him he didn't do anything wrong. She says she just needs some time to herself right now, but she promises that she'll make dinner for him tonight. However, Saito says she doesn't have to worry about it because he can cook instead, so he heads out to do a little shopping. Out in the park, Himari is sitting alone on a bench when she is suddenly approached by a group of guys. They try flirting with her, so Himari tells him she's a minor, but apparently they don't care. They keep trying to get her to go with them. Himari is starting to get a little worried, but just then, Saito shows up and grabs one of the guys by the shoulder. He very politely tells them that if they don't leave her alone right now, then he will scoop their eyeballs out and feed them to the fish in the ocean. That's enough to scare the guys off. Himari is thankful for Saito's help, but she thinks he went a little overboard on the threats. However, Saito says that's the usual way his family deals with people, so he was dead serious about what he said. Anyway, he asks Himari what she's doing out here by herself since it's getting late. She explains that she can't go home right now because her stepmom is there. Saito remembers hearing Himari talk about how bad her relationship with her stepmom is, so he understands why she doesn't want to go home. Himari usually schedules work whenever she knows her stepmom will be home, but her stepmom unexpectedly came home early today, and she doesn't have enough money to stay at a hotel, so the park was the next best option. Saito can sympathize because he used to go to the park whenever he didn't want to be around his parents as well, so he says he will wait here a little longer. Himari asks him why, and he says there's no particular reason, he just doesn't want to leave her alone right now. Himari's heart begins to race after hearing that. She reminds Saito that he still owes her a favor for the whole pretending to be his girlfriend thing, and before Saito can really respond, she kisses him.
Yeah, boy.
The next day at school, pictures of Saito and Himari's kiss are already spreading through the girls' group chat, and Akane can hardly believe what she's seeing. Akane runs out of the classroom and bumps into Himari right away, but she's still too shy to admit that she's jealous. Himari is starting to get annoyed by Akane's indecision, so she tells her that if she doesn't make up her mind soon, then she's going to lose Saito to her. Later that day, Akane is sitting on the couch and trying to process her feelings when all of a sudden, Saito comes home with a gift for her. He could tell that she was upset, so he bought her finger pastry. Although Saito doesn't realize it, this single gesture just helped Akane confirm her feelings for him. A few minutes later, Akane calls Himari and asks to meet her out in the park. Once they are both there, Akane says she wants Himari to stop pretending to be Saito's girlfriend, but Himari flat out says she won't stop until Akane gives her a good reason for it. Akane is forced to admit that she is in love with Saito, but now that that's out of the way, Himari Himari tells her it doesn't matter. Akane has been fighting with Saito for years now, while Himari has liked him for a long time, so she doesn't think Akane has the right to butt in all of a sudden like this. However, Akane says she has liked Saito way longer than Himari has, because she met him at a party when they were younger. The truth is, Himari had kinda suspected that Akane liked Saito. She always found a reason to approach him, and when he wasn't around, she seemed downcast. Still, Akane refused to admit it. With everything Himari learned about how to win people over, she probably could have gotten Saito to fall for her. She knew what kind of hold he had in his heart and the things she needed to say to make him like her. But she didn't do it, because it would have been unfair to Saito and to Akane as well. She knew Akane liked Saito from their first year of high school, but Akane could never admit it to herself, and if Himari stole Saito from her like that, it would have been the end of their friendship. Akane asks if that means Himari did all the pretending to be Saito's girlfriend and kissing him just to give her a chance to come to terms with her feelings. But to be honest, Himari just did those things because she wanted to, and if Saito ever actually responded to her advances, she would have jumped at the chance. They both understand each other a little better now and acknowledge that neither of them is willing to give up on their friendship or on Saito, so they need to figure out how to move on from here. They both promise they won't ruin their friendship over it, but they are also going to keep pursuing Saito without holding back. Or at least, that was the plan. But the very next day, Akane is back to being awkward and combative with Saito because she gets flustered around him.